This is the Bat Pod.
Grab your bat microphone, it's time to start the show. Like a court of owls, the mystery is starting to grow. Let there be no debate, it's about to begin. Keen like Bruce Wayne, quick like Tim Drake, fierce like Damien. Grab your headphones, listen up, you know you love it. Drop the facade. Like the Dark Knight Detective, they've got some perspective. They're a pure crime-fighting collective. It's the Bat Pod.
Welcome to the Bat Pod, episode 102. I'm your host, Bill Beer, and join me tonight, straight from the Weird Science DC Comics podcast, the mayor of positivity, Jim Werner.
Hello. Yes, positivity. At least here I get to pick a book that I want to talk about, so I better be positive about it, right?
Right, you would think so.
Maybe. We'll see.
You would think so.
You never know.
So, this episode is what I call Holy Back Issues Batman. I've done it in the past. Nobody probably remembers it because I've done only like 3 before, but I want to start again, have somebody come on, pick one of their favorites, come on. But the first thing I want to ask you,
yes,
can you give me your Batman comic book origin?
My Batman comic book origin. Let me think now. Actually, it's funny because I started reading most of the stuff that I've read in the New 52. I'm fairly new to everything. But the thing is, I actually read The Killing Joke way before that. So actually, The Killing Joke is my origin. I ended up, even without reading comics, ended up reading that around the time that I read The Watchmen as well. And I had this like real little dip my toe into things. And so this was, a little later after both had come out and, whatnot, but they were at the library and I got both of those. So I actually did enjoy both of those and then didn't read comics for years after that. And then the next bit was the Scott Snyder. And actually, it's not. The next thing would be Detective Comics in the New 52, because the idea of Joker's face being taken off, it actually intrigued me. And it was one of the first things I read with the New 52. But actually, The Killing Joke is my entry into Batman comic.
Not a bad entry at all.
No. A little violent. And this is the thing, too. I love it when you have something that is like your first thing and you think that it's, so great. And then people start yelling about it because you know as much as I do. About 5 or 6 years ago, you couldn't actually admit that you liked The Killing Joke out loud. People would then get so angry. It was almost pre-canceling, but they'd kind of cancel you at that point. And I just kind of sat back, and now it seems okay again. But at that one point, boy, it was tough. You weren't allowed to like it. And it kind of got to me because that was my entry level in.
Very good, very good. So, as I said, I asked you to pick an issue, any Batman-related issue you wanted, and we would talk about it. So tell everybody, what did you pick?
I picked Batman Special number 1 from back in 1984, one shot with The Wrath. The opposite of Batman.
Yes.
Yeah. And I'll admit, here's the funny thing is, this is supposed to, I didn't cheat, but I kind of didn't follow the rules as much because I hadn't read this before we decided to do this. I actually said I got to pick, but I hadn't read it. What I did was I ended up looking up a bunch of things, and a lot of the things that I really, really do like. I was going to pick the first issue of Venom, the story in the Dark Knight deal. But the problem was I thought, well, that's a bunch of issues, whatnot. So on this list I saw this, looked at the cover, realized what it was. And Eric, who I do the DC Comics podcast with, had mentioned a bunch of times how great it was. Mm-hmm. And usually I don't trust him, but I did this time. And I'm glad I did because and a lot of people put this up there as a special. And I even said, when I messaged you about what I was, I think I want to, you actually responded and said, I have that one.
Yes,
and I thought, okay, if you would have said something like, really, you're picking that one? Ooh, I would have flip-flopped. I would have went, wait a minute, that wasn't the real pick. But you seemed enthusiastic as well. So I'm like, all right. And luckily it works out because it is really good.
No, it's pretty amazing, especially for the time, in the 80s. This felt like a story that hadn't been rehashed. We had to get a new villain, and it felt like something new And, new things in comics are hard to come by at times.
That is true. Very true.
So it felt new and exciting, and I really enjoyed it. And, I don't hear tons about this when people are talking about. I mean, everybody that I know really likes this issue, but I don't hear, it brought up in the Twitterverse.
Yeah, I don't hear about it at all.
Yeah.
And I even thought about that. I'm like, it's Mike Barr. And sometimes I don't hear his name a ton, but you hear it, about some people. But this story, actually pretty good. And it's one of those things that it's a special, it's oversized a bit, but it's a one shot and you're in and out. And I thought that is something that I really do appreciate, especially if you're trying to get into, hey, what was this like? And you get a sense of the time and stuff like that. And I really liked it. I actually was very impressed by it, even with it going with a little bit of the tropes and the things, but it makes it feel different. I don't know why. I don't even know I can explain how Mike Barr does this, but I never rolled my eyes seeing, say, the crime alley scenes and things like that, because it did seem like you were looking at it at a different angle, and it was fresh.
Yeah, and the other thing that you need to do if you're doing a Batman special, you're looking for somebody to pick it up that's not necessarily a Batman fan, in addition to all the Batman fans.
Yeah.
And the thing that this has, it shows you who Batman is. They got some detective work going on here. You see Alfred. You see the relationship with Commissioner Gordon. You see, some fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it has you're right. It has just about and Leslie Tompkins.
Yeah.
I mean, it has all these things in it, including the origin. But told in a way because it mirrors another origin, and pretty cool. And you're right. If anybody picked this up and didn't really know tons about Batman, they're probably still going to know a little bit, but this does give you everything. It gives you the slice of everything.
And the one thing that I've talked about before is, how close is Batman losing his parents? How close is he from, instead of becoming a hero, becoming somebody that's about, vengeance and that sort of thing? How close is he going from one side to the other? And we get that in this book. What would happen if the same circumstances, but not really in a different situation? How it affects one. So I thought that was pretty cool about
this. And I think that when you have these things, that you have the crime alley scene where, oh my God, Thomas, Martha, they go down. I like to see stories like this because it actually is almost a tribute to Thomas. And it actually shows that they raised their son in 8 years. They raised him well and kind of set it up. Now, again, it helps to be rich, but it ends up where then Alfred coming in, everybody was there for him. So you kind of get that, okay, that's cool that we see. But we also see the other side, that if it wouldn't have been like that, it may not even be, the Wrath's fault. He really didn't have, or probably didn't have, anybody to really count on. And it looks like his parents are a little shady. I mean, that's what has, you know what I mean? That's what has the problem. So, I mean, the idea of, oh my God, my mom and dad were innocent, good people and got shot, as opposed to looks like they're breaking in or out of a house, and that kind of skews it a bit. And then if you're going to be there about, oh my God, I want to bring down crime, versus, oh, those cops, because he's a little kid and he sees, a police officer will see the deal. And so he's going to be mad about it.
Right. It's the pigs.
Yeah,
they're the enemy.
Yeah, and that's going to just stick with you because you can't fix that. I mean, you could fix it in a way that the kid could realize and go whatever, but he's always going to have this vision of police officer killing his mom, and that's horrible. It really is, but I don't think he had anybody then there for him. But what I like about this, it's a one shot, in and out. The Wrath at this point kind of gone, and you don't even need to see any more. You can kind of make it up in your head. You can kind of go with it. And I think that that's pretty cool. Again, something you don't see a lot of in this sort of way, a good way. Sometimes now when they're saying, hey, fill in the details, it's different than this. It's like real important details that now the story falls apart. They don't fall apart here. It actually works with a mystery of, what happened to the Wrath? What happened to this guy? And who was he? How did he grow up? And how did he train? Because he is, as Batman keeps saying, pretty much his opposite, his mirror image. And it's crazy. But it's cool. And another thing before, the whole deal, I actually really like seeing something like this where Batman is also really, under the gun here. He ends up, not as a pun, but the idea where the Wrath is just as good. And Batman admits it. He says, this guy is my equal in every way. And I like seeing that without it being, some sort of cosmic craziness. This is just a guy who trained and is, just as good at what he does as Batman is, and has some advantages, like you said, because he'll take lives and things. So I really like that as well.
And the one thing that I liked as far as the Wrath and his costume is he looks like Batman in the shadows.
Yeah.
I mean, he made the cowl to look because of his relationship with the police at the time. And he basically, if you haven't seen, he almost looks like Magneto with a purple cowl and cape.
Yeah, I like it. I might like it better than some of the Bat costumes. I actually think it's pretty. It looks really like what would end up being the extreme stuff, but it's before that. This is the 80s, not the 90s, but it ends up looking pretty cool. I could see, like I said, my man Eric, he loved it. And I think that maybe it would have been the look. And he loved Wrath. He wanted Wrath to continue, was all upset, and even later said that when Azrael and stuff came by, he just wondered, like, what happened to Wrath? I want to see what happened to him.
Yeah, and it's one of these things that it's special, and it's like, is it in continuity? Is it not? If it is, why didn't they ever use the character? Well, I mean, we'll get to the ending, but that the ending doesn't have. I mean, Alfred's back. Yeah, so.
Exactly. I mean, that's, and we've had, I swear there was one other time they mentioned them, and then it kind of, because like I said, Eric gets fired up every time something comes up with him or mentioned, or, might even act like something like that. And he's mad. He gets mad every time that they should really, go back and use him a little more. And now he could just come back. But like you said, at the end, there's a reason why you didn't see him the next issue, at least, because things go wrong. Which ends up being kind of feels tragic by that point too, right? It doesn't feel like a sigh of relief because it happened. It almost feels like, there was a guy who could have been Batman and he ended up the wrong way. And it's kind of a shame by the end. Batman tries to save him, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
But, I'm following your lead. You do what we kick into this or whatnot. But I really did like it.
Yeah, and the one thing I do want to mention before we get into this book a little bit is there was a second Wrath, and he showed up in Batman Confidential number 13, March 2008. But he had a name there. Here, you don't know what his name is.
Yeah, it actually shocked me, too. You never really get a name. He's just the guy who's, as Batman says it a bunch of times, he's my equal, he's my opposite. He keeps going. Yeah. Alfred, it's funny, too, before we jump in. Alfred in this makes me laugh the whole time because this is definitely not the Alfred who a lot of times is there to help solve the crimes. He is definitely the Alfred that is I'm going to work as kind of a pseudo narrator by asking questions so Batman can answer them and then everybody can get up to speed. And at points it did throw me off. I'm like, Alfred, you're not that dumb. Like, come on, Alfred. But it's fun, and I do like it. You also get that deal where we'll have an important event, obviously, happening in this, and it did shock me that this is at a point where Batman has kept things really tight to himself, hasn't really told a lot of people, and everybody questions why he's doing this one thing, and it kind of makes it special. I mean, for a Batman special, it does make it a bit special what night it is and that he's kind of kept that to himself. But I'll give it back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And when we start in this book, the one thing that gets you right off the bat is, you see how they were created, basically. You see how the Wraith and how Batman was created. You see the death of the Waynes, and here you see the death of other parents, but sort of in a different way with breaking and entering type of situation, and the cops taking out the parents in relation to Joe Chill taking out the Waynes, and that sort of map what direction they went into instead of trying to protect people. The Wrath is like it's cops. Cops are
it's just
on the
now.
menu basically.
Right? Yeah, they are. I even like it where you have the Batman stuff on the top, and then on the bottom you end up having the Wrath stuff. And like you said, when when Bruce's parents get gunned down, it's a senseless murder. It's, hey, give me those things. It's a thief doing that. And then when you go to see Wrath's parents, they're thieves themselves. And it's not quite a senseless murder. It almost feels like he may have gone through the point of, the reason why my parents died was because they weren't good enough to shoot the police officer, because his dad pulls out a gun and starts firing. There's nothing in this that you would ever think that this, the police were wrong here. It wasn't he went to pull out his wallet and, oh man, that's no, the police, they've got to do what they do here because they're going to get killed themselves. So it's such a neat way to kind of get in that mindset of what do you do from here. They both have that very similar start. It's just, the Waynes weren't to blame. And Bruce really took the idea of, I don't want anybody to ever have to deal with this again. Wrath kind of does too, but that involves being a cop killer. It's so crazy, but it is that kind of like same kind of thing in a skewed way. And it's a shame. It really is a shame.
When we jump into the next series of scenes, you do have a attempt on Gordon's life, and Batman recognizing that's a plastic tray and not a metal tray at the cafeteria, and a bomb goes off, and he saves him a second time, and then we show there was another attempt on Gordon's life. But I like the interaction between Gordon and Batman. It feels like, this is a Batman we recognize.
Yeah.
You can't say that every time there's a special or a mini series, or it's what I like to call, oh, that's a Batman from a different Earth. I don't recognize this Batman, but he must be on a different Earth because it's nothing like the character that I know. But this feels like the Batman that we know. It
feels like and I like that, because a lot of times, like, you're going through a run, and whatever person you say, writer or whatnot, some people end up, when they're writing Batman, they end up changing them a bunch of times. So if you have like an annual or a special, you're almost going to have to, if you want everybody to read it, you're going to almost have to explain yourself and like, oh, this Batman's miserable more than so, or this Batman, this and that. This is just classic Batman. And I like the way that Mike Bart does it, because he does even use Gordon here to show you that, the camaraderie of it. And I thought that it was a pretty cool deal, because this Batman you also get the idea that he's working, as friends with Gordon. He really seems friendly, even respectful. The way that he goes with Gordon, he seems genuinely worried about him, but also he's the smile. Like, the idea that he kicks in this door to go grab that tray, like, where did he see this, when, and what? Like, he couldn't have done this, 10 minutes earlier where they're there. I'm wondering what they're doing in this cafeteria. And it even looks like a setup at points, but you do end up where he comes and saves Gordon. And I like that through this whole thing, I swear, it's the, oh man, Batman, I owe you 5 times now, and he's like, nope, you don't owe me anything because you're such a swell guy. It's a really nice, caring Batman in my mind. The idea of how he is trying to protect Gordon, because it's Gordon. I mean, that's this guy. So I really do like that. We see the Wrath there. And at this point, there is that deal where he could take some shots here and maybe kill Batman and Gordon, but he doesn't take them because he's very technical. He doesn't want to, and I like that. It shows that he's kind of like, that evil type of Batman deal where he's like, I could shoot, but I might miss, I might graze them, then they're on to me, so I'll wait. And he says, I have all the time in the world. I could just wait this out. And it is kind of, I don't know, a little chilling to see Batman in the scope of this gun, knowing that he could end up, just pulling the trigger right there and it would be over, and Batman wouldn't even know, because this guy is pretty good. And as they're doing it, something that you brought up, the shadow behind him with his gun, but it's Batman. I mean, it's the Batman silhouette because of the way he has his thing. And it really points it out. And in a subtle way of, oh my God, this is the bad Batman. He's got a gun, and you see the reflection of the cowl. That's cool. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah, I really like that, and the artwork here is pretty amazing. The way that's done, really enjoy that. It had to be where he was, he had this first assassination attempt, and Batman is like monitoring everything in
Yeah.
regards to Gordon. It's like that's his main man. And it's like he just knew. I don't know if he had like his little, what do you call it? Nanny cam in there. He was
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah, you wonder why that's when he busted in and waited till
Right.
the platter was set down. And it's a plastic explosive platter. Like, is there a detonator? Is this something? Because he kind of comes and kicks it over. Like, maybe if you were careful, it wouldn't. It's very odd. It's an odd play. But then you also see that Gordon has had some other problems too. He's had the assassination attempt there. You have his car blowing up. And this, I think, is the best line, one of the best lines in the book. Because Gordon is a tough dude. He doesn't want to go up like, well, I'm not going to hide. My guys need me. And Batman explains, listen, just think of all the things that happened leading up to this, all these attempts at your life. Some guys died. You have to be put away here or everybody's going to be dead and it's going to be your fault. So please just let me take you to the safe house. And he finally does agree. But I like that you have to have Gordon say, like, yeah, I'm not scared. I'm not going to end up going there and I'm not going to, sequester myself away. My men need me, but they kind of do need him to disappear for a little. These guys are dying and, good guys. And then, Gordon's like, yeah, I guess that's true. I was waiting for Bullock to be like in the hospital or something laid up from some deal. But yeah, you go back because, again, I really like this. I like that Batman puts him in this weird place. And it's weird. They're like, nobody will know you're here. You don't know it's that. I'm like, really? I see a window and a light, right? Like, who's not going to know something's going on here? But then Batman sneaks out the window and Gordon, do you think they'll see you when you leave? And he's like, did they see me when I came in? I'm like, didn't answer the question, Batman.
Well, you have the light on really bright. I mean, I could see you across the street.
Yeah. No other, it's like an abandoned building, no other lights, just this one room where Gordon's there. And he's like, nobody will ever know that you can see that. Nobody will have it. I'm like, I don't know about that, Batman. I don't know. If I'm there, I'm like, what the hell's that going on? But he seems to think he's safe, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's Batman. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. And apparently Wrath has a lady friend.
Yeah.
And, well, you got to figure he's...
Yeah, I mean, he's the opposite of... That's the funny thing. I wish that because he's the opposite of Bruce Wayne Batman, he's like just this guy who has real hard time with the ladies. But he doesn't seem to, though he doesn't seem to like to take that costume off. I'm telling you, he's kind of really into that costume. And
yeah, he apparently, I have a feeling, it's not shown in this book, it's very PG rated. When they get to sexy time, I think he leaves that cow on. I think
he might leave it on. There's the other thing, too, because he is there, and this is kind of where you get, I'm telling you, this Grail Hudson, this woman that he's with, she's pretty much a device. This is to have a reason why Wrath is after Gordon. At one point, you kind of might think that, is that Gordon, the police officer before? But no, pretty much Wrath is pretty much like a hitman for hire, but it's kind of fallen in love with this Grail. But her father was killed by Gordon. And because we know Gordon's a good guy, we know that whatever happened, it was the dad's fault probably. But still, that's another one whose family, all this stuff involves families and how you react to their death and what you do about it. And I think that's I like specials like this, that it's not preaching to anybody, but it does have this kind of theme that you can go with. It's very familiar. You can even sit there and think what you would do if you lost your parents, stuff like that. And so I do like it, but she might be the biggest villain. I don't know. Wrath has been going around killing a lot of people, it seems, but she's the one who's causing the problems in Gotham. She's causing the whole deal with Gordon. And it's a weird play. It's almost like, 2 days to retirement for Wrath, but I don't know. At one point, I thought he was just going to leave town and ditch her. And I don't know. It's so on. Though she does like to smoke. Throughout all this, I don't know that there's at any point she's not smoking, but she likes that. And kind of funny play too, of not really seeing a lot of that in the books now.
No.
But yeah, and even then, like, she likes to smoke. She drinks a little, maybe, and sits and stares at a picture of her father. That's what she does all day. And she needs Wrath to kill Gordon, but they seem to have fallen in love in the meantime. Though she's probably never seen his face because he needs that cowl on there. But
Yeah.
it's kind of funny play. But it ends up, it does give you those, layers of it. It's kind of a funny way that I don't know how this happened or whatnot, but it makes sense. It's played out in a cool way, and then it gives you some stakes at the end and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It yeah, I do like how she's a little amusing there that
Yeah.
she's like using him. It seems like she's definitely using him and he's like falling for it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
Yeah, and you can't tell in it. That's a cool play as well. You're right.
yeah, yeah. So we get the Bat Cave here a little bit, and it's always fun to see different artists' interpretation of the Bat Cave. The coloring choice, though, in this one panel, after we see the T-Rex and the coin and the Joker card, it's kind of a yellow orangish background, which is interesting. It looks like there's a spotlight on them.
Yeah, it does.
A spotlight from a distance, and that spotlight is like that color, which we don't get to see too much of the Batcave, but
yeah, it's weird, right?
yeah, it's
is
a little weird.
Spotlight that Batman and Robin had on them on that one cover. They're like, he grabbed it, but it is weird that it's like one of those things that if you sat there, you're like, boy, that Bruce Wayne, he really thinks he's a star, doesn't he? Has the spotlight right on him there. Probably would hurt your eyes too. What I like is you end up big T-Rex, huge card, huge penny, and then the little tiny like microfilm deal that Bruce is going through where he's leaning over. Yeah,
yes.
At one point you look at you could even imagine it's a sewing machine, the way he's bent over and he's doing that stuff. What is he doing? Knitting? But it's classic because there's Alfred. And like I said, Alfred shows up and says, like, what are you doing? And then Bruce will explain, and then he'll not understand something, and then Bruce will end up. I want Bruce like, Alfred, don't you have things to do? Come on, go upstairs, because he wants to figure out, all this stuff and that player on the other side that he seems to kind of start pushing here about Wrath.
Yeah, and we get a little of his detective skills here. He's analyzing the bullet, and apparently Wrath isn't as smart as we thought, using the same kind of gun bullets for all the different. There was a commander at Scotland Yard, and there's other police officials, and he's been using the same gun. Of course, Batman's going to figure that out.
Oh yeah, and in my mind, if I'm going to let my imagination run wild, I would love it if we found out that's the gun that killed his parents, that he ended up somehow getting that gun, that just like Batman puts it in glass, Wrath uses it. It'd be kind of a cool play. You never get that far. You don't have enough time or space, but that would have been neat. But this is what threw me when you're thinking about an Alfred that, sometimes Alfred's MI6. This would be something Alfred now would know. The idea of a gun doing that. But at here, he's just a butler. And so, he's like, what do you mean? Like, he's all confused, and it kind of threw me a bit. But that's kind of the fun. But like you said, this is classic. So it's not anything that I went like, oh, my God, that's ridiculous. I'm like, all right, yeah, he's good at making sandwiches and tea. And, he has to have things explained to him. But I love his curiosity anyway. Because if it was me, I would have been somewhere else in the mansion. I wouldn't even go down that back cave. It would annoy me. But yeah, I really like that. But were you surprised? I know you've read so much more than me of Batman, but I actually was surprised, and I don't know if that he, at this point, Alfred does not know the anniversary of the Wayne's deaths. And I thought that was kind of a weird...
How does he not know?
I know. Like, there's gravestone, like, you know what I mean? It's not something that if it was the exact time and we play that, but it's the 26th, and he's like, the 26th, what is that?
What could that be? I mean, what is his obsession?
Yeah, really.
With the 26th, I can't imagine what that would be.
Isn't that weird?
That's
threw me off
weird.
a little. It is a little weird, but I don't mind it to the point where if Alfred ended up saying to himself, maybe, it's the 26th again, but I mustn't say anything because he's never opened up to me about that yet, and that's not my place. Or you see Alfred go up and kind of have his own little, like, here's to you, Thomas, and he takes a drink or something. But now he seems to be very oblivious to what the 26th is. As Batman says, I got some things to do. personal little deal on the 26th. I do it
Yeah.
every year, all that. And I don't know what could possibly be any sort of anniversary each year at about the time that his parents died. I don't know what it is. Kind of made me laugh a little, but yeah, it's okay though. It's okay. And as we saw at the beginning, we saw that Wrath, his parents died the same night. So you wonder, okay, does he have a way that he celebrates things like that? He kind of does, and it's awful here. But you go on again, because then everything about this is, I get worried anytime Wrath is talking to anybody, and especially anybody who would think he might be Batman at some point, because, yeah, he's bad.
Right. And apparently Jimbo, anytime this character, you want to get his attention or anything, just throw him some cash.
Yeah. How many of he started dancing? He starts dancing and stuff.
From a dark corner, just throw some cash.
Yeah.
And then you can start getting some information out of Jimbo. And, and we get here where Wrath finds out that, Batman comes to this same night every year on the 26th. Yeah. And that's when he starts putting 2 and 2 together. Yeah. Really.
He figures it out.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and I like that. It's funny, too, because at one point I was going to say, why call this guy Jimbo? I mean, you already have Jim Gordon, but it's almost like, all right, that's his dark version of this. It's just this former guy, thief. He's kind of gone on the straight and narrow as long as, as far as he says. He'll still grab money if it's thrown at him, though. But he ends up saying, I love, too, that he ended up getting caught by Batman on the 26th, but it's also like the anniversary that he got rid of his girlfriend or what. Right. This guy can remember an anniversary. Alfred, he can't, but this guy, he knows and
this
remembers.
Guy, he celebrates an anniversary by stealing cars.
Yeah, he says that anniversary each year of being demoted, he steals a car. Hey, this is for you, baby. And then hot rods the car and runs. Batman stopped him. Batman ruined that anniversary. But I love that this guy remembers that. Alfred can't remember crap, but here you go. You end up, he's like, I remember it all like it was yesterday. Batman stopped me in my big anniversary. And since then, I've been on the straight and narrow, except when you throw money at me, and then I'll dance for you. He's still bent over. And Wrath is awful, where he throws that money down on the ground and then steps on his hand while Jimbo is trying to grab it, and then puts the gun right to his forehead and wants info. What does Jimbo know or not know? But he gives him good info. And then it seems like Jimbo really thinks that he's going to die. Because Wrath goes, all right, now your payment. Oh, here we go. Here we go. But he gives him money.
Right.
Yeah, it's actually a weird scene.
Right. It's kind of weird. He does a Batman, basically, where he disappears. And
he disappears. And doesn't hurt Jimbo. Now, I'm not saying that Jimbo here is a great guy. I don't know what he's going to spend that money on, but maybe he'll make a better life for himself now that he's got that wad of cash. I think it's right to the strip club and the liquor store, but that's me. That's what I think of Jimbo. But it's kind of a crazy scene to show you that, Wrath actually does some detective work as well. And then he solves the mystery of all mysteries. I mean, very quickly, right? Where he realizes Bruce Wayne's Batman.
Yeah.
He looks at like 3, headlines. He's like, okay, that makes sense. And he's starting, it seems, to get that idea of, hey, we both had the same problem. But the way that Wrath is, you can tell that this is a guy who will find any way to get mad. And probably is like, oh, that rich jerk. That's why he ends up being, all that stuff. Though, looks like Wrath has some money to throw away.
So Wrath is kind of confusing to me because he's like, wants to go to the library. Why can't he just go to the library, in normal time? He has to break into the library at night to find this stuff.
And then he attack the guard.
Right? You're right.
All he has to do is go in. Like, actually, I think it's because, in Gotham, it's very hard to get a library card. He didn't want to wait till the next day because he knows they would, give him crap. When they go to take the picture and they're like, you got to take that cowl off. And he's like, no, I don't take it off. They're like, I'm sorry, sir. But yeah, this poor guy, this guard, the guy who's guarding the library. I mean, seriously, all he says at the end of the day is, thank God Bookworm didn't show up and go after me. And now he gets Wrath, who comes in viciously beating him up so that he can run over and look at the microfilm of one headline.
It looks like he gave him a throwing star.
Yeah, he did. It's
throwing
really
star to the head or the neck or.
and then has to fish it out of him. That's the worst, right? That he has to go over and grab it because those things are expensive.
You
So,
don't have a bunch of those? Or...
It's so funny. Actually, at first I was like, what is he doing? Because I didn't get the deal where you see it, though. He gets hit. But I was wondering, I thought he was going over. I'm like, why is he hovering over the guy with this thing? I'm like, oh, he hit him with a throwing star. I mean, pretty cool deal. Poor guy. Guy is out. He might be dead. I don't know.
Yeah,
he's
dead.
And
then
it says then.
Yeah.
Poor guy. The guy was just there walking around. He could have even, how quick it was, waited till this guy walks by and goes to the other, like, west wing. And then could have grabbed this thing. Yeah, I forgot they actually do say Ivory Guard murdered. Straight up murdered.
Right.
Holy crap. But that wasn't all he did that night. He, as the night is approaching of the big anniversary and things like that, he pretty much does the worst thing you could do. I mean, especially with this whole deal going. I mean, it's awful, right?
Right. Destroying, Bruce Wayne's parents' gravestone.
Yeah.
Or statue or whatever you want to call it.
And Bruce is pissed. He is just, I love this guy, he ends up getting the call and goes over. Arthur Childress ends up calling him and he says, he's like, what's up, Mr. Childress? Oh, you have to come here. What? They did what? And he runs there and you have this deal of, Mr. Childress, at one point, he had to go talk to a priest whose church was destroyed, and he didn't even yell that much. I'm like, okay. It really made me feel odd. I'm like, okay, we have gravestones, we have churches being done. Really? And but Bruce he's upset. He's
upset.
Really
he gets a little message from his old buddy, and Alfred is still confused about what is going on. I don't know if he's going a little senile or
he
what's
might be.
Going on here.
Yeah, he might. I love too where I don't know that old Childress has anything to do with it. I know he doesn't. And Bruce grabs him and starts shaking him. Who did this? And then I love this guy's just, I got to give him an answer. He's like, look, it says, give me CG. Obviously, Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
But Childress has no idea. He goes, I think that's one of them new there drugs. Guy wants the drugs because he wants to get the hell out of there. He's like, I got to give this guy an answer and get out of here. Again, you know what I like about that? That's dumb enough for me to get the riddle here, the CG, but it ends up being believable that he wouldn't understand because he doesn't know the whole deal of it. So I like it. I actually like that you can kind of play along a little. We know that it has to be Wrath anyway, but almost like, man, this guy has some balls on him. He ended up destroying the Wayne's grave and then just, graffitis on the side as well. And this is where you have Bruce freak out because, this guy knows that Bruce is Batman, and that's humongous. And it kind of gets pushed aside. It's not really taken advantage of much in this here because, I mean, that's a huge thing. And he's freaking out. He calls Alfred and says him. He knows the deal. The chick is up and out of here. I got to, stop this. I got to figure out what's going on. And he comes up with, a plan. And it's a little risky for old, what's his name, Gordon, because he's got to get him involved. But one of the things, and I'll give it back to you, but one of the things that I love, too, is this next scene, right? You have this deal going on where this woman has gotten Wrath. Is this really what she's saying? I'm going to give everybody, it's almost like it's a mad world of now to go and get Gordon. She gets everybody in town, but then tries to swing it around of not the idea that she doesn't think Wrath can do it. She wants them to do it quicker so they can go off on their honeymoon. I'm like, I don't know about this. And I really thought Wrath was going to find out and start just picking every one of these guys off, like really pissed. And she starts throwing money around and says to them, whoever gets it gets this big money, or you could take that. You see some of the guys just take the money and go drinking.
They're a unique bunch of individuals there.
Yeah, really.
From a cab driver to a sort of like a businessman to a guy that's wearing a shirt that's not covering much.
No. Yeah, look at that guy. And then I'm telling you, you have like a guy who looks like Bibbo. You have a guy who looks like Lucius. You end up having a guy in the background what's that guy with the hat, but he's like scruffy? He looks like Booger
He
from the Return, the Revenge of the Nerds, right? And then
he
you have
found the hat in a trash can, a
Yeah.
tie.
What is
and
going
coat.
on with these guys? I do, like you said, the cab guy. That guy reminds me of like a McConaughey. You know, he's over there in the Dallas Buyers Club. He's sniffing the money over. It's really odd. That guy has some abs too. And that
No,
one guy.
it's like, were these guys, if you were going to pick guys to knock off a police commissioner, would these guys be at the top
No.
of your list?
No, none of them. I actually was going to go through and say, well, maybe the guy with the abs, but he looks like he's more concerned with doing crunches than actually doing anything else. Like old timer there in the front, there's like, yeah, money. He just goes
He
out
just
to
wants the
drink.
money.
Yeah, that's all he wants, because she ends up giving them like, here's a small taste, and whoever gets him gets a lot. I think this old guy's like, there's no way I'm going to be able to beat any of these guys. I'm just going to go spend this money. And of course, she's there smoking. You know, there she is. And she's like, listen, you know, you guys go get that. If you guys catch him an hour before Wrath would have, that's an hour I get to be with my sweetie pie. I'm like, I don't know that this really works. And what happens from this? What really ends up happening from this, except this guy drinking, so that Bruce can be undercover as Steven Spielberg and go and see him? It's the weirdest disguise going on here, too. I'm like, what is he doing here? He looks like Steven Spielberg. I thought like it's going to be matching. No, Steven Spielberg. He's like, hey, by the way, I'm doing E.T. too. You want to get involved?
It's like a guy, you know, was walking in. It's like in an 80s movie and walked into a drugstore. He bought a hat. He bought some glasses. He brought like a little sweatshirt or jacket. And it looks all out of place.
Everything does. Yeah, it looks like a guy like, first off, I'm a guy who I wear ball caps a lot. I always have. And you can tell, like, this is a guy who hasn't really ever worn a ball cap like this. It's high riding.
No, he doesn't know how to wear it.
Yeah, it's not pulled down. And also, actually, I will say, he looks like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas combined. That's because he has the facial hair of a George Lucas, but that hat and the glasses remind me of Spielberg.
And his shirt is kind of messy. It's not neat.
Yeah. He does look so out of, like, nothing that he's doing or wearing looks like it actually fits him, or that he is comfortable wearing it. But hey, this old guy, he's drunk. He's the guy, you know, old timer. He just took the money and went and started doing shots. And so you end up having Bruce there. And I like, you know what I like about this? It's just a little bit, but I like the idea that there is Bruce in that awful, awful disguise. But it's still where you're not going to get your hand held. You have to realize that's what's going on, and you do. But but nowadays, a lot of times it's so forced. You have to see them in the chair putting on the prosthetics. Then he's going to go off. Then he spells it out. I like that it's this, that it just goes boom, boom, goes to the scene. And there he is to continue on the plot, is that undercover Bruce Wayne ended up finding out a little bit for, you know, what's going on. I thought that was a pretty cool deal. And even with him just being Spielberg / Lucas, he disappears like Batman. And that's kind of the funny play at the end. Like, oh yeah, it was Batman. Like, it'd be funny if he walks out, this guy walks out and matches him along as he's going in. You're like, who the hell was that guy? It wasn't even Bruce. That'd be hilarious, but it's not. It is Bruce. He gets the info, and now he ends up going to maybe confront Wrath, but ends up running into this Grail.
And I really like how, you know, he appears here, because it's a play on they look like each other.
Yep.
You know, in the darkness, and she takes him for Wrath, and she's like, listen to me, forget about Gordon and your plan, let's just get out of here. And then a slow reveal in 3 panels, you see it's Batman, and she's like, you're not.
Yeah. Oh no. Like, uh-oh. And and then he kind of gives her the Vulcan neck pinch, and she goes down, and he puts her to sleep. I like when he's laying her down, leering over, and it goes, a very thorough search is in order. I'm like, you better watch it, Batman. That is awful, my man. But yeah, he's talking, and he ends up, the thorough searches. Oh, there's a map. He sees it on the table, and he does grab it, and yeah, he has the area circled, and then it goes off. And I like the way he goes, oh no, not that area circled at this. And then you go, it's not just, he doesn't have to yell out what it is, because then the narration continues with him continuing on the next page. And I like the progression, because not only does Crime Alley have, the memories and all that, and of this time especially, but it also has Leslie Tompkins. And it does play out again, the best of the best and the worst of the worst of how people have, taken their lot in life and ended up changing things and doing stuff. But I like, as you said, where you have everybody mistaking Wrath for Batman. I do like that play then with this Grail where she mistakes him for the deal. I thought that was cool, where she's like relaxes because she thinks it's Wrath. It's the opposite of everybody else, because that's her guy. And yeah, I don't have any sympathy for these two. They deserve what they get, but it's still a shame because they kind of could have went. If Wrath would have been home and she said, "Let's go, baby," and he says, "All right." It's funny because the idea that she wants this done, why doesn't she just say, "Listen, the contract's off, let's go"? I mean, she seemed to have hired him. Why can't she just say, like, at any point? But it's odd. It's really odd. I wish also that she would have said that she hired that gang of misfits,
Right.
Almost to the idea, I'm going to hire them because I don't want my man Wrath to dirty his hands anymore. I don't want him to kill anybody that will end up having him in trouble. I think that would have been kind of cool too. She just wants him. She wants Gordon done so they could go off together. But you go from there because they end up in Crime Alley, and like you said, Leslie mistakes Wrath for Batman. It's a good scene. I mean, because Leslie, it's old Leslie too.
Yeah, it's
and
before she got re-aged.
Exactly, and you kind of get like, oh my God, what is this guy going to do? And it's a little scary, and there is some tension.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Batman shows up, he gets like a ransom note. What does that ransom note even say? Batman, bring Gordon.
Yeah.
So he's pretty simple.
There you go. He's he's right to the point. He's bring Gordon, and it's there. I like the idea, like it's there with the note, with a knife through it in the Leslie's pocketbook. You're like, holy crap, that's pretty intense. But then Batman comes up with a plan, and I love the idea where you're supposed to believe that the plan originally is, okay, Gordon, we're going to go and I'm going to give you to Wrath. I mean, that's what it seems. You don't really get the full plan, but you realize there's going to be some other twists and turns. It's that Batman always, makes plans and relies on people too much because the other people almost always ruin something that he has to go. And Gordon gets a little too, big Gordon energy in this whole deal. But it's Gordon. It makes sense. So I did like it, but Wrath, he likes putting guns up to people's faces and heads and things like that to really show you he is that opposite of Batman. And also likes to, get a little, kinky, I guess. He wants to tie up or handcuff Batman, all these things that if he doesn't do it, you're going to end up getting it from Leslie's going to end up, dead. It's funny, too, because I want to say that he wouldn't kill Leslie, but I think he straight up would. So this is a legitimate threat. But Gordon's in trouble. I mean, Gordon ends up kind of, I guess you're supposed to be like, oh man, Batman done messed up because now he ends up.
Because he basically throws Gordon into the fire here and, Gordon gets shot. I mean, as soon as they do, okay, let Leslie goes, he's like, okay, Gordon, here you go.
You have to give him credit. He did let Leslie go. I didn't think it'd be funny to see because he pushes her away right off the roof. But no, he lets her go. Get out of here, old bag. And then just lets loose on Gordon. And Gordon, you see him shot in the chest, blood, all that. It's explained. And I kind of figured what it might be.
Right. I didn't have a fear that,
no,
that's the end of him. I knew it had to be something going on that they had planned.
Yep. Yeah. And as this is going on, Wrath's girl, she wakes up. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, like what hit me? What was Leonard Nimoy in here? And ends up where she's going to kind of saunter down to where everything's going on, all this stuff happening. And she's going to see, with the police and everything going down, because she needs to be there for the one person who actually does care. for the Wrath. But yeah, it's funny too, because you mentioned the idea of that really lame costume, but yet now Batman's doing full out special effects with Gordon and they're simulating getting shot. That's all the budget for this one was for that whole deal there. He couldn't afford anything but glasses and a hat and maybe a shirt. But yeah. And yeah, he ends up where he seems, it's weird too, because when he yells this, I took it a little more extreme because Wrath thinks that he killed Gordon, but then starts yelling, "Mother, father, I did it. You can rest now." I'm like, okay, you're kind of twisting and turning this around really to make it that personal with him and all that. But you also get the deal where I thought that he was going to try to kill himself. I thought that, I'm like, man, he really wasn't that into that woman because he says, "And now I can rest as well." And I'm like, a guy like this doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would like retire to the beach or the mountains. I thought, oh no, like
and
what
it's
is he
like
doing?
his whole career has been about, this is the final step. And it's like, what do you do next if your whole life has been about vengeance and this is the end of your killing spree? What's next?
Yeah,
I
what
mean,
would you
as you said, can you go to a beach and just chill out?
I don't know. It doesn't feel like that sort of character. Like the idea that he thinks, first off, thinks that Gordon dying is like the end of his whole deal. Maybe because he did say he was going to go off with his woman, but I don't know. Just saying that, like, and now I can rest too, just seemed like an odd play. Thing is that we said Gordon not really dead, and you have Wrath is now. I love to. He's like, I'm done. I can rest, but first I'm going to kill Batman. And he's, why is that involved either? He could have just walked away, but he's going to shoot Batman. And Gordon jumps up and reveals that he wasn't killed and tries to stop and save Batman, even though you end up having Batman say, "I could have shimmied around and I wouldn't have been hit. So I wish that he wouldn't have done it." But I'm telling you, it's the greatest bullet ricochet that it looks like it hits, then goes down, takes out the cuffs. It's crazy. And then, he's there to try to save Gordon again from Wrath. And Wrath is pissed. He is so upset. And now it just ends up, let's fight. Let's fight, stab, because you get that cool play that Wrath will go a little extra than what Batman does. He will
and
try
you
to
really
kill him.
you see here that their training is very similar because they're going toe to toe here, and he's holding his own, more than his own. Wrath, that is, and you have to wonder what path he took and what kind of training he had. Was it a similar path? And it's very interesting because there's not too many people that could go toe to toe with him.
And that's what I think now. It kind of reminds me of Ghost Maker. The idea that Ghostmaker trained with Batman, that makes sense. He's a little deadly. Like you could have even had that be Wrath, even though they have this little bit of a history. But I think you could have ended up, working that out. But yeah, Batman says, and if Batman tells you when you're fighting that he's an equal to me, like he's anticipating all my moves. He knows this. He has the balance. Then you know that it's true. It's just, it always comes down to in this that Batman's going to have to be a little better because he's not going to kill while the person he's fighting is just straight up trying to murder him. And that takes a lot. That takes, a lot of ways, and he ends up hurting him, but he ends up, seriously, by the end, I don't care. There's a delay where this guy's hanging on a ledge. Batman pretty much kills him. He wouldn't have died if it wasn't for. But Batman has to have. "Oh, I'll try to help you. Here, grab my hand." I think he's like keeping it a little bit away from it. Like, come on, reach out. And he's darn it.
This is like a movie ending.
Yeah.
Here I'll make a weak attempt to save you, but I half expected here at the end here because he has this code with death and dying. I have to expect fail-safe to show up.
Yeah, really? That would have happened. He does kill him. And here's the play here is funny. You could have played this a little tiny bit different, I think, that the idea, because you see Wrath desperately trying to save himself. He's trying to reach out to Batman. He's trying to get it. Batman's going that everything's on fire because where he ended up hitting Wrath. I would have liked to have had where Wrath, right as Batman is about to save him, Wrath says, "This is how I'll get you," and just pushes himself off. Now you can say, you know
right.
what I mean? Like, oh, this is the way I've just realized how I can beat you. And then just pushes himself off and plummets to his death, which would haunt Batman forever because he wasn't
And
able to save
doesn't
him.
Batman have some fire retardant,
I know, like
costume
usually
there?
he does.
Right. Jump into a fire and
The guy has a spray for everything. You would think he has like a fire extinguisher type deal at least.
Right.
But no, Rath's just burning. He's trying there. He's like, I can't see you through the fire. And then Wrath falls to his death, which actually shocked me. Really did. I thought that Wrath was just going to get away. Or at the end, like, hey, get the the body's gone. But you can't because he falls right in the middle of a bunch of people. I do like at one point where people are just yelling random crap here. It's almost like back in the day in any sort of sitcom, you would have, what? You're going into labor. Somebody boil water and get me some towels. Like, yeah, they're yelling. Somebody get the netting. The one guy goes, what are you talking about? The fire company isn't here yet. There's nobody with netting. I like that they're yelling for it. It's not there. And then, the fire company shows up like 2 seconds too late. Oh, my goodness gracious. But, he falls. And as he's doing it, his woman just, arrives to see this.
Right.
And you do get that sad play of, only one person ever would care for this guy dying. It happens a lot with like a criminal, and it's his mom, the only person who could love him. And it is a tragedy for them, In this case, this woman is just as bad. She should be arrested immediately, and they do pull her off, which I thought she was being arrested because she did hire Wrath, it seems, to kill, and a lot of other people. Batman knows that she's bad. She's going to go because now she's into the arms of, the deal and Tompkins, that she's going to end up helping her, which is kind of a cool play at the end, but I don't know.
The one thing that I liked here at the end, Commissioner Gordon asked Batman, how are you feeling? And he says, I feel fine for a man who feels like he just watched himself die. And that's the whole thing behind this particular issue is, you have this parallel incident when they were kids, and they went off in different directions, and he saw more in him than, anybody else, because I really think he, you go one path in one direction, and he could have ended up like that.
Yeah.
He could have said, why didn't the police save my parents? Why weren't they there? Why didn't they prevent this?
Yeah, why did this longtime criminal and repeat criminal, why the system failed? And instead he goes after the criminals instead of blaming somebody else. And that's the thing, it's the idea of blaming people versus, I'm going to do things. But now Batman's crazy himself, but at least he has a mission. He doesn't want anybody to feel the way he did. And unfortunately, he's going against somebody that he never could save, that because it was the same night. I mean, there you go. He says, I'm never going to let anybody have that happen. Well, somebody already had that happen in the exact same night, and they blame the police and everything else.
Leslie Tompkins, Commissioner Gordon, they're all talking about, what's the real reason you come to visit on this day? And they can't figure it out. What happened on the 26th?
Wrath looked up one paper and it's like, all right, I see what it is. And here's the deal, here's where I really played it too, is you have this happen a lot. We just had it in Nightwing and the current books where Blockbuster figured out and knew that Dick Grayson was Nightwing. He died that issue. If you find out, Batman's sitting there and here, grab my hand, and wait a second, this is a bad dude that will get arrested. He'll be in jail. He knows that I'm Batman. The hand starts inching backwards. He's like, come on, reach out. Come on, you can do it. And then just pushes him. Because, this is a lot of trouble if he
You can pull yourself up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really. If you do that, you jerk it. Well, you can only imagine that if he didn't die, it would have been the Norman Osborn, conked his head and has amnesia. So they, run down. Maybe that would have been kind of a cool play of Batman has to watch him because he did forget, but he also forgot that his parents are dead and he doesn't have that anger. I don't know. But if he goes to jail, a lot of people are finding out that Bruce Wayne is Batman. That's huge. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
it's not like
it's a
some of his
crazy deal.
villains that are like, I'm keeping that secret just for myself.
Exactly. And you know what's funny too is throughout all this, Batman, though he doesn't seem to try, but he doesn't find out or tries to find out who Wrath is. He ends up like he's just doing his thing. Wrath figures out his secret. It's kind of a cool play. Like Batman is one up the bit in this, but then at the end, because he's Batman and he's not sus, he wins out. But still think he didn't extend that arm all the way. That'd be cool if me and you are going to write a story where there is somebody taking pictures and you do actually see him edge his hand away and we confront Batman. That's our deal. And we blackmail him. That'll work out, right? We'll end up getting all the monies. But yeah. And if you want to have a nice little touch, he does kiss Leslie Tompkins goodbye and says, Miss Tompkins, you know, you're great. You're one of the best, and gives her a little kiss on the cheek and goes off. And I liked that. I thought that was really nice, even though it seems that she says, and even they only see each other that one time a year. Like he doesn't visit much at this point, but he does end up saying that she's like a shining light in Gotham. And I thought that was good. Wow. You have this girl who lost her wrath. She's upset. There's nobody to comfort her. And Leslie goes over and hugs her and says, you know, I can help you with this. You can come and visit. And we can work things out. So I thought that was too. And, you know, Gordon, he survives. I love when Gordon's like, yeah, get this. The plan was I had a bulletproof vest and blood packs. That Batman, he thinks of everything. I'm like, all right, he'll go with it. I'd love it if Gordon's like there and before he even gets shot, he trips and falls and all the blood packs go, oh my goodness. There's like blood everywhere. That'd be cool. But yeah, and knowing Batman, that's all real blood too. He's crazy. It's probably like some crazy blood. But yeah, I liked it. I had fun. I liked talking about it too. That was fun.
It's one of the better, you know, single issues that are a one and done that's been done. So no, I really enjoyed that. That was a good pick. As I said, when you said you picked it, I was like, ooh.
Yeah. I lucked out, I guess. But I did say, I was looking up a bunch of lists too, just to kind of see like, hey, what would we do? And I'm glad I wanted to read something different and new. And like I could have come on, hey, The Killing Joke, or hey, we'll do the usual suspects. And when I saw this in the list, I saw it on the person as the second best one-shot Batman story after Killing Joke. And so I ended up like, you know what? It's got to be good. And that's pretty big. And like you said at the beginning, I've never heard really anybody talking about it. So I thought, that'd be neat. I want to see what it's like. So, and then I told Eric and he loved it. So
Sean and I, for our 100th episode, we picked our top 3 Batman stories, whether it was a single issue or, you know, a mini or whatever. And we told ourselves we weren't going to pick, you know, the ones that are in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the top 5. So we went out on the edge and picked a couple different things. One of the things that I picked that is pretty popular is Batman the Cult.
Okay, yep.
Which I've always enjoyed. But, you know, we didn't do Year One or, you know, Dark Knight Returns, which I'm not a big Dark Knight Returns guy. It's not one of my favorite. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not one of my favorites. So, you know, you get a lot of podcasts, you know, they always talk about the top ones.
Yeah.
And I like this. I like we're talking about something that not everybody knows about.
Yeah. And that's cool. And with a character like Batman, sometimes it is tough, you know, because like you said, you'll get the same ones a lot. And because they're great, and he has so many good ones. But yeah, I like this. I actually did really, really like it. So I'm glad that it worked out.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I assume you have not listened to episode 100.
I have not yet. No.
So you have not heard me sing the theme song.
Oh my goodness. No, I gotta go listen.
Yes, it's in the first 8 minutes at least.
Okay.
Listen to me sing, and anybody out there that thinks that I sing the intro song, you might think differently after.
Yes. Well,
just
if that you didn't get this, Sean didn't say who sings that. Let him, did he? Because that's the worst. I can't stand when people do that. But I will listen. I will definitely listen.
Yes.
That will be a highlight. So
before we get out of here, how about you let everybody know about your podcast and your whole deal? I know it's like, Oh yeah,
there's a bunch.
Then it'll take like 30 minutes.
Yes,
Could you,
I'll do
short
it like
version?
a really quick. If you want to listen to a DC, Marvel, manga, we have the Weird Science DC Comics podcast. We have many of the Weird Science Marvel Comics podcast and Weird Science manga. Just look up Weird Science, insert the deal. And yeah, we have manga shows. We have reading clubs each day of the week, and plus a couple big shows there. We have our DC show, and on the Marvel side of things, we have an X-Men show, a Star Wars comic show, and also the regular comic show. At Marvel, that's about it. And we have websites and things. Like I said, just type in Weird Science Comics, and you'll be able to find most of the stuff to get you started. Yeah. And then kind of go down the road with that. But we try to cover just about everything. And it's me with a lot of different hosts and things like that.
Yeah,
so it's not just
and you do get cranky occasionally.
Yeah, I get upset. I would say, especially the DC things, if you end up where you're kind of sick of hearing people give everything 10 out of 10s or everything's great when it might not be, you can come and listen to our DC thing. But when things are good, we like them as well. It's not just hate for hate, but it's not, great for great. It ends up, I'm going to use that from now on. You end up where it's just honest reviews. We try to go through each of the books. So, see, comic book review show.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. A bunch of things. But yeah, it's a good start.
So, until next time, same bet time, same bet channel. We will see you later.